When the 7th edition of the World Atlas of Wine comes out next year, Queensland winemakers will be saying cheers, because for the first time the Granite Belt will be mentioned as a wine region in its own right. It follows a recent visit by English wine writer Sarah Ahmed. Dubbed the Wine Detective, what she says about this cold climate enclave will be read by millions of wine buffs around the world. Sarah Ahmed was a corporate litigator with a top-tier UK law firm for 12 years. But after taking a wine tasting course, she traded the yellow legal pad for a notebook and a life as a globe-trotting freelance wine writer.
It's a lot better than being a lawyer, that's for sure. When I was a lawyer, I didn't ever once think, I'm so lucky to be doing what I'm doing. And I think that a lot with the job that I do now, because of who I meet, where I go, what I taste, you know, fantastic.
Sarah Ahmed's just finished a tour of Australian wine regions, from Tasmania and Victoria through to Queensland's Granite Belt.
I'm here primarily because I'm working on the World Atlas of Wine. I'm consulting on Australia, so that's it's a publication that's, I think it's sold 4.5 million copies worldwide. So my job really is to come out here and make sure that I'm catching up with, especially regions that aren't so well known, and seeing what's happening on the ground and trying to get a feel for that, and what the key trends are, who the key players are, and just making sure that the Atlas is as contemporary as possible. So the aim is to be really finger on the pulse.
Especially given the region's quite small.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
She calls herself the Wine Detective, looking for clues in the glass.
It goes back a little bit to my former life, my first career as a lawyer, and I was a litigator, so court disputes, commercial disputes. So, it's all about forensic skills. So that's I guess the Wine Detective is about applying those forensic skills, but in a much more exciting context, much less dry in every sense of the word.
In a way, she's doing for wine writing what Horace Rumpole brought to the bench.
I think it's important not to be snobby and elitist about wine, and so there is also a fun side to it. I've made it a serious second career choice, but it's a fun thing. It's a sensory thing. And so it's something which does touch you, and in lots of different ways, and the heart, the soul, and the funny bone.
I mean, there have been some quite good ones. Rosemount have put out a few good.
When she arrived at the Granite Belt, she'd been touring Tasmania and Victoria for more than 2 weeks.
Is it good that she's visited the Granite Belt last?
No, it could work either way. I'd say, Sarah's had a very heavy itinerary since she's been here in Australia, so she's probably feeling the effects of that. But the other side of the coin is that when she does leave Australia, will be the last thought on her mind, so that can be a positive as well.
The Wine Detective had a day and a half of Granite Belt wines and vines booked. Her first job? Taste 100 wines in under 2 hours. Local winemakers were thrilled she'd asked to visit their neck of the woods.
In Queensland, we have an attitude, if you like, that amongst Queenslanders, that perhaps the wine is not as good as we find down in South Australia and so forth. And so it's excellent that we have someone like Sarah coming from overseas, trying our wines, recognising our district as an important cool climate district.
To have an international journalist of Sarah standing here on the Granite Belt is fantastic. It's an opportunity for her to gain an understanding of the wines that we have here in the region, and then pass that information on to her readers all around the world.
Closer.
The morning after found her in fine form.
And you can even look at me. Look at me.
Did you find wines last night that you really rate?
Oh yeah, I did. Yeah, some really exciting wines, and I think, what's interesting are the alternative varieties that they're using here. I thought the Tempranillo can work well here because it's a grape that's talked about a good deal as one of the most successful alternative grape varieties in Australia. So it's good to find a home where it's working well. And what influenced you to plant? Which grape varieties? Your choice of grape varieties?
It was a learning thing we had originally.
I think there's huge potential here. I've tasted some really good wines. And I think they are different. They're much fresher and brighter, but I think, that's the trend in Australia, but I think it also works well with your climate, your hot climate. I mean, who wouldn't want a lovely glass of Riesling or Gewurz? Also, good examples of which I had last night, not just good, very good. Sangiovese.
Sangiovese, we have...
Okay.
Well,
Sarah Ahmed will visit just 4 wineries today. Her first stop is here at Borrian, one of the Granite Belt's smallest operations. Influential wine writer James Halliday awarded this tiny 1.5 hectare operation 5 red stars, the highest award he gives.
And what's your sort of oaking regime with these wines? What do you do?
That wine there would have been in 100% French oak, 1 barrel out of 3. So
while Peter and Therese Stark are interested in what Sarah Ahmed makes of their wine, local word of mouth has already made it a winner. Every vintage sells out.
And most of the rest goes through the cellar door, a very small amount to restaurants and bottle shops. Things are looking quite good at the moment.
Oh, that's good.
So what did the English wine sleuth think of the Starks' highly regarded drops?
I think really exciting wines and wines that, the good thing about them is, you read all about the 5 stars and, on equivalent with Grange or whatever, but they are unshowy wines and I really like that about them. The wines that have a sense of place about them, there's that sort of granite quality, there's a minerality, and there's that cool climate juiciness. And there's a passion behind those wines, and it really helped me get an understanding of what it means to be at this elevation. I think it's 825 metres, as I recall, and there are higher vineyards here, so exciting to see that. And, and it's great sunshine today, but you can probably see my hair is blowing around, so there's this nice cooling breeze, and these granite soils, which in other regions of the world that I'm interested in, especially Portugal, the Dow region is also quite high, mountainous, rugged, and has these granite soils. No, it provoked quite heated debate, actually, amongst wine writers.
Her next stop was even higher, Summit Estate.
So Borrian have a little bit, but you're higher. You're another 100 metres or so. It goes in 920 metres?
Yes, 920, yeah.
And so big diurnal temperature variation of, 10 to 15 degrees is typical?
Yes, and that is, I think, is the fantastic, that give us this characters of cold climate.
Yes, yep.
The Granite Belt might be dominated by small wineries, too small to fill significant export orders, but cellar door sales play a big part in the economy here. So a good write-up in the Wine Atlas couldn't hurt the tourist trade.
It just gives us not only a local perspective, but also gives us a worldwide perspective outside Australia, that people coming into the country, they do have somewhere to go, and these are the wine regions that they can visit and thoroughly enjoy themselves.
One of the trends Sarah Ahmed detected in Australia was an increased interest in alternative wine varieties.
My first week in Australia was at the Cool Climate Symposium, and Peter Dry, who works for the Australian Wine Research Institute, was talking about both 2 reasons to work with alternative grape varieties. One, because of climate change, and there's a bit of a buffer against climate change, so looking for those less hungry, less thirsty vines. And the other was thinking about this different texture and lower alcohol, all those other things that alternative grape varieties can bring to the party, and encouraging producers to go down that route.
I'm finding what you're getting with the natural yeast, you're getting a fair bit of dimension.
She also noticed a bullishness and confidence among winemakers.
And I think because Australia has been so incredibly technically efficient at making wine, and making wine that's without, faultless, that's been an enormous strength. I think a big change that I see cycling through is winemakers going, OK, we know what we're doing, we can relax a bit. And I think that that's giving the wines a good deal more individuality and balance, seeing that balance coming through.
which is at odds with Australian wine's reputation more generally in the UK as boring and cheap.
Australia has, since 2004, had the biggest market share in the UK. And, of course, if you're going to have the biggest market share, Australia isn't one of the biggest producers in the wine world. So that's a lot about cheaper wines. And, unfortunately, there is still an image that Australia has in the UK is very much tied up with some of those big brands that are on big promotion, and I think that's made life very difficult for Australia.
This is the Pinot Noir. This is my holy grail. Mm-hmm. And as you can see, we've opened up the canopy.
Sarah Ahmed broke new ground on this trip. She tasted the fruits of the Granite Belt and then, literally, the Granite Belt.
Now see how you got the friability? It's just coming through. You actually try some.
Winemaker Mike Hayes proved a generous host indeed.
You see what I'm talking about, small humours?
Oh yeah, this is crunchier.
Have you eaten dirt before?
There are a lot of firsts on this trip to the Granite Belt. When I came here, I didn't realise that I would be eating the Granite Belt. No. So, no, it's the first. I've never eaten dirt before. Well, I probably have when I was like this high. Yeah. But not, as an adult. No, I haven't. Yeah.
Did you learn anything from eating the dirt?
I did. Yeah. Because, why wouldn't you, in a way, because I was thinking I don't want to do that. And I thought, well, actually, if the grapes are coming out of that, and that's what I'm tasting in the glass, then why not?
That's where it all comes from. Mike.
Yeah. Thank you for introducing me to,
No problems. Thanks for having a look at my little patch of grapes.
Yeah.
There was one first she wasn't prepared to add to her list.
How'd you rate the mango wine?
I never tasted that, no.
The wine detective's last stop was to meet the man widely regarded as the father of the Granite Belt's wine industry, Angelo Puglisi.
Baguettes and ring loaves that we have in this town, absolutely beautiful, crunchy.
As well as tasting the Puglisi family's wines, she was treated to an Italian feast from matriarch Mary's kitchen. While Sarah heads back to the UK and a lecture from her dentist about eating granity dirt, the winemakers in the Granite Belt are hoping she can help spread the word that their wine is becoming as cool as the climate where it's produced.